So I'm with Ronnie Renton from Mantic Games, and today we're actually going to be talking about the Mantic Day as a whole, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about actual Dread Ball. We're going to be talking about version 2 of Kings of War, and really just trying to squeeze as much out as we can of you, really. So it's
notorious for saying too much. So.
It's great to see you, Ronnie.
How are you? Very well. Thanks for coming down.
So yeah, thank you very much. It's a great day today at Mantic Day. So I hope you're really happy about what's actually going
fantastic.
on.
No, very good. It's just good fun and great playing games, and people turn up with cakes and all manner of stuff.
Is it the bit you're most excited about? The cakes?
No, toy soldiers. Cakes are nice, but they're the cherry on top.
Perfect. So. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the actual version 2 of Kings of War and what you're expecting to actually develop with that, please?
Yeah, well, Kings of War has been very popular. I mean, from the outset, it's been owned by the community. What do people like about it? It's a balanced gaming system. It is an army gaming system, so it's not skirmish mass battle. But we recognise that that's therefore hard, so we made the miniatures 2 and 3 pieces.
Okay.
We can base them up on unit bases. So you don't have to, so you can still use them for other gaming systems, but when people are dedicated to playing that, they often do, so it's quick. And what I'll guarantee you is you'll have a fair game, you'll have set up and played and finished with a complete resolution, if you know what you're doing, less than 2 hours.
Oh, right, okay.
So people can play 2 in an evening, and what we've been doing is by the end of the last edition, people have worked out where the min-maxes were. And so you have large infantry and a few heroes, and none of the blocks of infantry. With the clever armor section. And that's just the one thing we didn't want, because actually it's all about mass battles and getting down, seeing how war. So we just cleaned it up, made sure there's a few things that because people have worked it out, they were slightly pointed up or over or under. So we've cleaned that up. We've made hordes and regiments. Regiments are the main thing, they're the main building block. It's got a little faster, a little slicker.
Yeah. Done
between Alessio and the rules committee. These guys have played hundreds and hundreds of games. It's one of the guys that's won the Clash of Tournament Kings a few times. Some from America, some from the UK, so there's a truly international angle on it. So, very exciting. It's quick, it's accessible, it's affordable.
Yes.
You can get into it, 50 quid and you've got an army and you're up and playing. The rule book is going to be, 25 quid. That has all the army lists for all the armies. Free downloads on the website, so if you're going to get new people in, just go and download for free.
Wow.
So, we're really excited about what's going to happen. It's going to have its own website and later in the year a ranking system.
Oh, great. I do like that.
Yeah.
That leads me to another question, really. I mean, I know with it being to version 2, what would you say you've learned the most, really, from the actual development and revision? Would you say it's been quite community-fed? Where would you say that you've sourced most of your kind of revision from? Because I see you've got a lot of work into actually making an exceptional game into an even more exceptional game.
Well, and that comes through playtesting. I mean, if our very first download beta, went up with the Kings of War guys back in 2010, I think. So, and that was downloaded 1,000 plus times, and there's feedback right from there. I think Alessio always had this game system in his mind. It's something that he really wanted to get out. So we just sat him down in a room with us, and he just typed for 3 weeks. So it was always very slick and intuitive, but there's things that as a game designer you want to see, or as me as a gamer I want to see, which is your huge big battles, and that was the brief. And however, the first time we did the playtest day, everyone had, like all the guys who play games competitively, had assassins everywhere because we hadn't min-maxed any of the.
No.
So what happens through playtesting and tournaments and continuous activity is that the game gets slicker and slicker. If your engine works, it just gets faster, and it's like oil. And that's what I was really getting to. It's a very polished, developed system. We're going to have a couple of new armies in this army book. So everything's got a couple of new units as well, just to freshen it all up, so everyone's new armies come on. And I think with this year, there's going to be a huge number of people perhaps looking for an alternative fantasy gaming system, and I don't think there's another one out there. So we're really optimistic that this can go on from a very solid base, where people have been looking at it for a long time, but I play this or do that, to say, no, this is the standout mass combat. It's unequivocally, it's a war game.
You think you found like a kind of a great gap between a competitive game system but a fun game system at the same time?
Correct. And that's why, there's the timer. So
yes.
If you want to play with it, you don't. With the tournaments, they tell you don't have those people gaming, running the clock down, you've got your time. And I've seen that in tournaments being used. So it's really exciting. And then what's going to be good fun, because there's both the competitive game but there's the fun side. Later in the year, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to get your buy army lists for other people. so if you've got a historical army or you've got a Ratman army or something like that aren't in our canon, that aren't in our IP, but you want to play competitively, we're going to produce a list there. They're free to download, and later we'll top them up, get some nice pictures of people's armies, and put them in a book together so that's all we need. So if you want to turn up and play with something different, heck, why not?
So do you think you've learned quite a lot moving from especially with the Mars Attacks Kickstarter, the infamous double-legged robot issue? Do you think, especially with the new Kings of War version 2 Kickstarter, you've really kind of refined that process?
Yeah, I think it started with Kings of War 1, which is where we started. It blew our minds, as it did Dreadball. We then became a little bit victims of our own success with Dead Zone. It became such a big Kickstarter. We did so much tooling and so much work. We had to get it out. There was a couple there where there was so much work on as we were scaling up, we were also growing. I think we then hit the team we needed.
Yeah.
We got established. And I think when you look at Dungeon Saga, you look at Kings of War 2, you look at what we're going to do with Dead Zone, all of these are about really refining and taking good to great. Dungeon Saga is going to come out great. That's because we've had time enough, because we've got the team in place. We're not recruiting and then getting to do the, Stu's are in the studio and Chris is running the everyone's in place. We've got the warehouse in place. We've moved into the bigger building. We're really able to plan and get organised and get sorted. So Dungeon Saga looks beautiful, and we've got a couple of the things here, and you can see the Overlord panel. So when you're playing the Overlord, how far does my skeleton move? How many attack dice does it have? What's its armour? If I do one hit, what happens? 2 hits, 3 hits.
Really intuitive, it seems.
All the information's there. There's the really beautiful photography throughout, strong brand. We actually wrote, so we not only wrote the rule book and the quest book.
Yeah.
And the first quest is really quite nice. It gets you started. It's just the barbarian and the dwarf.
Nice.
So you're walking along, you learn to move and fight.
Perfect.
Second scenario, wizard and elf. You're now doing ranged attacks and you do magic. So you know how to move and fight. Now do that, and also breaking away, because if the wizard gets in a fight, run! So there's that, and the nice simple adventures, and there's the rule book. But we say, you know what? Before you read that, it's only 24 pages. Before you read that, we wrote this.
Oh, okay.
Which is a getting started guide, and it talks you through that first adventure. So there's the barbarian, there's the dwarf. It tells you how to set it up. It tells you what all the counters are. So it takes this big box with hours and hours and hours of fun and card decks, and by the last adventure there's an evil necromancer, there's like 100 undead, there's loads of undead, there's bones popping out, there's magic spells. Okay, but we need to get started. Yeah. So all of that simplifies it down into moving and shooting. So it explains it, how all those things work, so that then when you really start scaling up you can get going on the adventure book.
Perfect.
And then as you go through, there's a whole narrative campaign. And as you go through the campaign, your heroes get tougher. As the guys get tougher, so the dwarf suddenly gets, at the end of that scenario, hey, you've got a shield, +1, start the next adventure, shield +1.
Oh wow, I like that, I really do.
So, we think it's key in a dungeon crawler that you have that grading up and levelling up. They've got it all written for you.
Continuity with that as well, encouragement to keep going on.
Really
like that. So moving forward with Dungeon Saga, do you have any preference or direction or any ideas maybe in the future about where you'd like to take Dungeon Saga or what you'd like to do with Dungeon Saga?
Well, yet again, Dungeon Saga reared up and turned into a beast. So, I think we were asking for 50 grand and we thought maybe, 300 or 400, maybe even 500,000, which could get Dungeon Saga plus the Adventurer's Companion. That is a complete role-play system.
Yes.
But not as in-depth as a D&D. It's there for when you're playing miniatures. But you might have terrain on the play, or you buy a few bags of tiles. But actually, I don't want to take a dwarf or a boat. I want a ranger, and I want, okay, here's how you roll your characters up. Here's how you build adventures. So there's that product, which I think will be really good fun for all of us who want to do a lightweight RPG system.
Okay, yeah.
Based around the miniatures as much as the role-playing aspects. After you've defeated Mortimerus, there's going to be an expansion where you can carry on with these heroes, and they can then take on the repercussions of what happens at the end. And then because it got up big, we had another couple of quest packs that ended up getting funded. So they'll be hitting in 2015, where you're going to be fighting against, there's an Orc campaign,
okay,
and there's an Abyssal campaign where you fight against Abyssals. And the finale, which when we went through the $1 million mark, wow, thank you everybody, meant we could fund a dragon.
I know, yes, I love that.
So, if you get out there and you do one of your interviews, the dragon's going to be there and you get to see that. It's just amazing. It looks fantastic.
Well, as I say, thank you very much for taking some time out, and thank you for letting us know.
No, thanks everybody, thanks for watching.